Welcome. This is what is happening on the Sun today, the 15th of July 2011. 68 years ago this day, an astrophysicist was born that observationally discovered pulsars. She didn't get the Nobel Prize for Physics. Her supervisor did. So today's trivia question is, what was her name? And which scientist did she share an office with in the early 70s? The answer will be given at the end. When we look at the X-ray signal as recorded by the GOES spacecraft, we see that we've had no major flares in the last 24 hours. And in fact the X-ray background has dropped below the B2 level. And once again we can see fairly plainly why this is the case when we look at the sunspot regions. Region 1253, or is it region 1245, re-emerged, there seems to be some confusion there, is just a single small spot. Region 1250 has the large leading spot, but the trailer region seems to be getting weaker and weaker. Region 1251 is a single large spot. Region 1252 are a couple of small spots. Either they broke down and numbered the third region in this vicinity, as I've been advocating for the last couple of days, region 1255, or they very rapidly numbered the newly emerging region, but just below it at region 1255. And that other one remains still as yet unnumbered. The region coming over the southeast limb has been numbered region 1254 and seems to be a couple of moderate sized spots and probably won't amount to much. There is a new region trying to emerge near disk center, however it's comprised of a group of very small spots, and again I don't think it's going to amount to much. So all in all, solar conditions have been relatively quiet. The sunspot and magnetic movies from the HMI instrument on the Solar Dynamics Observatory show us the coming and goings of all these active regions. In particular, I would like you to look at the development of this new region just below the sunspot complex in the northeast. Its rapid growth could be a portent of future flare activity, especially if it interacts with the other sunspot groups. Next we turn to the transition region and coronal movies from the AIA instrument on SDO. The calibration sequence is stopped just in time for a major filament eruption near the northern polar area. I've made a more detailed movie of it showing this eruption going off of the north limb. Polar crown filament eruptions like these generally produce large coronal mass ejections, so we have that to look forward to. In the coronal movies we see the presence of a very large coronal hole. That's currently a sun center but is moving towards the west limb, and as it does so, the high-speed solar wind stream that comes from it will sweep past the Earth. So in the next 2 or 3 days we can expect the solar wind to increase its velocity again. You should also note the two coronal holes at the northern and southern poles of the Sun. They're very small at the moment. Usually by the time that solar maximum comes around, they're actually shrunk to 0 and start reversing their polarity. Somebody pointed out to me that this coronal picture has a very familiar face in it. Can you guess who? And I thought Harry Potter had put an end to him. Oh well. Unfortunately, the SOHO coronagraph data is running 24 hours behind real time, so we can't yet see the coronal mass ejection that I think might have come from that northern limb area. We'll probably have to wait until tomorrow. The ACE data gives us information on the solar wind. We can see that the temperature of the solar wind has dropped rather suddenly in the last 24 hours, as has the velocity, but the density remains relatively low. So we have exited the high-speed solar wind stream. NOAA 15 data show us that the auroral zone is relatively quiet, and the KP index has been varying between 1 and 3, which is also rated as quiet. So in summary then, the X-ray background is at B1, sunspot number has dropped to 79, radio sun intensity remains at 95 solar flux units, solar wind speed has dropped to 440 km per second, with a density of less than 1 proton per cubic centimetre, and geospace conditions are rated as quiet. Once again, my forecast remains unchanged. There's a remote chance of C flares, but then a very, very poor chance of getting M or X flares. The sunspot number will probably drop lower. We still have a good chance of getting coronal mass ejections. The solar wind speed should drop a little bit lower, and the chances of getting a major geomagnetic storm in the next 24 hours is pretty remote. In the longer term, the next major region is not due back over the east limb for about 3 days. So once again we're going to rely on the development of the current regions or emergence of new regions on the visible disk for any flare activity that we might see. The answer to the trivia question is Jocelyn Bell Burnell, actually now Dame Jocelyn Bell Burnell. And the scientist that she shared an office with? Well, it was me. I had the privilege of sharing an office with her for 3 years, back at the Muller Space Science Lab. And I can tell you she's one of the nicest people on Earth. Happy birthday, Jocelyn. That's all for today. Keep safe. Bye for now.